At the beginning of the movie, we see Kyle, who comes to a morgue in Berlin to identify her husband's body. She remembers how she spent time with David. They walked around the city, met on a bench at the subway. And now, the woman sees her beloved face forever frozen in the coffin, once so lively and smiling. That night, she lies down on her daughter Julia's little bed and gently strokes the girl's head. Suddenly, she notices some men in the window of the neighboring house, and they are staring directly at her. The woman looks away to focus on her daughter, and meanwhile, the figures disappear. In the morning, mother and daughter head to the airport. Kyle decided to return to the USA to be with her parents. When they go down to the taxi, the girl suddenly admits that she's afraid to go outside. But Kyle persuades her to get to the car, saying she'll hide her under her cloak the whole way. Julia is worried about whether they will have familiar food in America and other things, as she's never been there and grew up in Germany. At the airport, Kyle looks at the board and loses sight of her daughter. The woman is terrified, but the girl is found. She was just looking for food. Later, they watch the planes. It turns out Kyle used to work on creating aircraft engines. First, passengers with children are led onto the airliner. Right after Kyle and Julia, a noisy family takes seats next to them. The woman notices suspicious-looking men of Arab descent in front of them. One of the passengers asks the stewardess for headphones, hoping to block out the screaming kids. The crew also discusses the loud family, sensing a rough flight ahead. The flight is delayed a bit, and it's cold outside, so they have to scrape the ice off the fuselage and wings. Kyle and Julia look out the porthole and see the coffin with their father and husband being carried away. The girl draws a little heart on the fogged-up glass. After takeoff, turbulence begins, but the coffin is securely fastened in the luggage compartment. Kyle suggests her daughter sleep. She'll lie on the empty seats in the back, and Julia will stay in their row. 3 hours later, Kyle wakes up and doesn't find Julia. She searches the entire massive plane, asking passengers, but no one has seen the girl. The stewardess says the girl could be in the rest area, but when Kyle gets there, she finds another child. She thinks Julia is just playing with other kids, but the anxiety grows. Back at their seat, the woman finds Julia's teddy bear, the one she never leaves behind. The stewardess tries to help and announces the missing child on the intercom. However, no one responds, but the staff assures her that the child is fine. Kyle lists possible places where Julia might be. There are many, as the plane is huge. She is asked to return to her seat, with the promise that they'll even involve the captain in the search. The stewardess asks Kyle if she worked in aviation, since she clearly knows a lot about planes. The woman replies that she used to be an engine engineer, but recently quit her job. The noisy family's kids want to help with the search, but their father forbids them, saying the child couldn't have gone missing on a plane. Kyle begins to panic, noticing how the stewardesses whisper to each other. She demands the truth, and one of the girls informs her that there are no records of Julia anywhere. She wasn't registered for the flight in Berlin, and her seat is listed as unoccupied, with the passenger count matching up. Kyle insists it's a mistake and that the search must continue. To prove her daughter was with her, she searches through her hand luggage for the boarding passes, but finds neither a ticket nor her daughter's things. Kyle realizes that Julia is too small to take her things by herself, so someone must have kidnapped her and taken all the evidence. The woman panics and runs to the cockpit. She starts banging on their door. She's stopped by Jean, the head of security, who's secretly accompanying the flight. They manage to call the captain, who questions the stewardess who greeted Kyle on board. The girl can't remember if she saw the child with the woman. Kyle admits that she's been taking strong sedatives since her husband's death. He died a week ago after falling off the roof. Jean, who sat next to Kyle, says he didn't see the daughter near her. Other passengers also can't confirm that Julia was on the plane. Kyle realizes that everyone thinks she made up the child. She tries to prove that it's not true. The woman reminds them of the rules. If there are discrepancies in the passenger list, the plane must land. She says that the girl is traumatized after her father's death and might be hiding somewhere. The captain believes her and orders everyone to return to their seats and have every compartment of the aircraft checked. Kyle also participates in the search, with Jean keeping an eye on her. The woman finds a suspicious-looking man of Arab descent and confronts him with questions. Afterward, he exchanges glances with his friends. She argues with the captain, demanding to be let into the cargo hold. He refuses, saying the child couldn't have reached the button that opens the door. Jean says he'll accompany her, so at least she won't be running around in front of the passengers and disturbing them. The captain disagrees, saying security regulations don't allow it. If the search in the cabin fails, he'll send trained crew members to the hold. The captain asks Kyle to return to her seat. Kyle realizes where she's seen the suspicious Arab before. He was watching her daughter's window in Berlin right before the departure. However, the man denies any involvement. The whole plane is watching the scene unfold. The Arab then shows a hotel receipt to prove he was in the same place yesterday. Kyle suddenly jumps at him, shouting. They're separated, and Jean scolds the woman for following her emotions. He doesn't believe her because the men could have kidnapped the girl yesterday. Why would they do it on the plane? And really, why steal her? The woman counters, saying that she knows the plane's structure, and someone could have blackmailed her using her daughter. The captain allows the passengers to leave their seats. Kyle argues with him in front of everyone. The captain then says that her daughter is dead. He takes the woman to a quiet place and shows her a morgue document stating that Julia died on the same day as her husband. The man jumped off the roof with the child. Kyle denies it and says her daughter was with the nanny at the park, but no one believes her. The pilot asks Jean to escort the woman to her seat. She snaps and runs down the aisle. The same Arab intercepts her. She stumbles and loses consciousness. Kyle wakes up in her seat, handcuffed. A psychotherapist who is on board offers her help. The woman admits that her husband was unhappy, and yesterday she supposedly walked around Berlin with him, while her daughter stayed at home. The doctor reassures her, saying that her brain is reacting to unbearable events, creating imagined walks with her husband or a flight with her daughter, as she simply cannot accept the horrible truth. Kyle stops hearing her voice because she notices the same little heart on the window, which Julia drew. The woman asks to go to the bathroom to be alone. Kyle climbs out of the cabin through the hatch and ends up in a part of the plane filled with cables. She pulls one out and plugs it into another socket. Oxygen masks drop onto the passengers. General panic begins. Then the woman cuts the power on the plane. Amid all the chaos, she sneaks out of the bathroom and heads to the luggage compartment. She searches for Julia even in her husband's coffin, telling the dead man about what's going on. Jean catches her and says the plane will land because of her. Kyle asks a logical question. Why is there only one coffin? If her daughter died, there should be two. Jean says he doesn't care, and she'll be arrested after landing. The man escorts Kyle in handcuffs down the aisle, while all the passengers sarcastically clap, as they'll be delayed because of her. The woman begs the man to search for her daughter. He pretends to go to the captain, but actually heads to the cargo hold. Kyle asks the stewardess, whom the air sheriff left to watch her, where she was during the search, but the girl doesn't answer. Meanwhile, Jean pulls out a detonator from David's coffin, attaches it to the explosives, and places it next to Julia, who is sleeping in the compartment. Then, he lies to the captain, saying that Kyle is asking for $50 million, or her accomplice on board will blow them up. The captain wants to talk to the woman, but Jean weasels his way out, saying she doesn't want to negotiate with the crew. The man asks for the money to be transferred, the plane to land, the passengers to be released, and the blackmailer to be caught. The stewardess, who turns out to be his accomplice, tells him that Kyle has started suspecting something. Jean reassures her, saying everything will go according to plan. She'll be found dead with the detonator in her hand, and Julia's body won't be found because she'll fly into the air with her father. The captain tells the man that the money has been transferred. Jean removes Kyle's handcuffs and promises that the FBI will interrogate every passenger. The plane lands, people leave, and Jean stays with the woman, advising her to stay quiet and not make a scene. Suddenly, she sees the captain and runs to him, asking him not to remove anything from the plane. The man replies that he can't object to her and leaves, but Kyle catches up to him and apologizes for ruining the flight. Then the man can't take it anymore and tells her that he fulfilled all her conditions, transferring the money to her account. It starts to dawn on her. At that moment, Gene tries to leave, saying he'll bring the FBI agents. He goes down the ramp and the woman decides to play his game, shouting that she didn't allow him to leave the plane. Gene returns and threatens to kill Julia if she doesn't go back into the cabin. The staff leaves, and the captain takes the air sheriff's gun with him. Gene locks the door, and Kyle hits him with a fire extinguisher. He falls, and the woman handcuffs him to the wall and grabs the detonator. The man pulls out a second gun and shoots, getting rid of the handcuffs. His accomplice rushes to help. Kyle runs and locks herself in the cockpit. Gene admits that it was he who got rid of David because he needed the coffin, as it wouldn't be scanned at the airport. And Kyle was perfect for the role of the fake hijacker because she knows the plane's design. The woman distracts him with a sound in the upper part of the liner, pretending to have gone there. The man falls for the trick and climbs into the electronics section, giving Kyle the chance to escape from the cockpit. She goes down, where the stewardess blocks her way, but the woman hits her in the face and climbs into the luggage compartment, where she finds her daughter. Meanwhile, the stewardess runs off the plane. Gene goes to Kyle. The woman hides, and the man explains how they smuggled the girl out in a food cart, and no one cared about it. The woman waits until he gets close to the explosives, then presses the detonator. Everything explodes, but Kyle survives and emerges with her daughter. The captain apologizes to her, and the passengers realize they were wrong to slander her. Everyone says she's amazing and saved her daughter. Kyle and Julia, through the trunk, get into a car with seats facing backward, which is strangely parked right in the middle of the airport hall. And the car drives off, disappearing into the air like an illusion. This is the end of the film. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Give this video a like. Write in the comments what you think about this film, and see you in new videos.